I think we'll give it another couple minutes actually before I start with content. Because I know some people were having trouble getting the link, and that's on us. That's like back end production at 3 Joules. We're trying to figure out exactly what the glitch is. I know that many of you have had that come up. So let's maybe start with a little review quiz to see how well you remember what we've been doing in the past couple weeks. What was the text we just finished studying? Just unmute yourself and answer. We'll do this for a few minutes. Sanskrit name. What's the Buddhist text we just finished studying?
Bodhisattva Charyavatara.
Yes, was that Sachi? Yes, it was. Good. That's one that if you memorize it, you can impress people. And then they'll think you're really Buddhist, especially if you teach and you can say that word really fast. Then they'll trust you and you can tell them anything, they'll believe you. What's the English translation of that? Roughly.
Guide to a Bodhisattva's way of life.
What's a Bodhisattva?
Someone who has bodhicitta, or the wish for total enlightenment for the sake of all beings.
Thank you. Someone different. What's total enlightenment?
Being free from all mental afflictions.
Cool. Cool. Thank you. What's a mental affliction?
Any suffering, any negative emotion like anger, depression.
Thank you. One of the things I like when I try to define this is like anything that's not bliss is a mental affliction. Anything that is not bliss is an illness, according to these teachings. So when we say enlightenment, when we say total enlightenment, and there's different schools that say different things about different types of liberation, ascension, nirvana, Buddhahood, enlightenment, total enlightenment, what you need to know, I think, this is just what I take away, is that there's 2 basic groups. One is you go all the way to something called Buddhahood, where your afflictions are gone, meaning you're in total bliss and wisdom the entire time, and you have special Buddha powers. Like you can emanate spontaneously. You don't have to sit there and think, I'm gonna emanate to my cousin who's having a hard time right now. Or who might be having a hard time? Let me emanate to them. A Buddha, this is called Hlungdruk. A Buddha emanates just because, in a very they don't have to try. If someone needs a birthday cake, the Buddha's a birthday cake. And so that's one of the cool powers you get as a Buddha. And if you want to know the other powers that you get as a Buddha, finish all your 18 courses, meditate, be nice to each other, take care of other beings, and then maybe you'll get the other courses, which are more about Buddhas and how to become them. Okay, why am I talking about this? Because this is what we're trying to achieve. We have to figure out whether or not we actually believe that this is possible. We're not really going to go into that tonight, so try to suspend your disbelief, at least for now. Keep a partial open mind. This is one of the things that they say, if you're a good student, you'll have an open mind. It's in the Lam Rim. They say you're a bad student if you don't have an open mind. The Buddha said it, not me. So you can just, do what you want with that. So we're trying to have an open mind and say, oh, maybe bliss is possible. Maybe it is possible that I could get there in this life. And because I think that maybe that's true, forget my intense desire for it, I'm studying things like the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, because the masters say, if you want to get to that place, that bliss, there's a bunch of shit you have to do. One of them is become a bodhisattva who has bodhicitta in their heart. What's bodhicitta? The constant wish. When you wake up at 4 a.m. and it's pitch black and you were just in a dream, the first thought you have is, how am I going to help other beings? You know, when you wake up in the morning and you have to go drink coffee and take care of your senile dog, the first thing that you think is, oh my gosh, I have to get enlightened today for the sake of all beings. How am I going to do that? And they say you have to get there first. This is how. Bodhisattva Charyavatara, written when, roughly?
700 AD.
Who said that? Rebecca.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You're done now. You gave 2 correct answers. Thank you. Who wrote the Bodhisattva Charyavatara?
Master Shantideva.
Who was that?
Susan.
Oh, Susan, thank you. Sorry, I'm going to put that thing on where it shows you when you speak. Okay, I still can't see you. Now I see you. Okay, good. What was your answer?
Master Shantideva.
Can tell me a cool fact about Master Shantideva.
He levitated while teaching the last part of the book.
What's another cool fact about him?
He was bullied into teaching. And
Why?
It seemed like he didn't know what he was talking about, but it turned out he was awesome.
So I ask you to say that because tonight it may seem that I don't know what I'm talking about. No, I'm kidding. I'm not comparing myself to Master Shantideva, but it's true. And it's such a beautiful teaching. Even his story is a beautiful teaching because he was this guy, they called him Mr. Three Thoughts. They were like, he's so stupid. He's like, and you do this in Dharma communities, you do it in every community. It's like, oh, there's the stupid one, you know, and no one says it. No one says it in a Dharma community, but people are making assumptions, same as any other community. And they think, oh yeah, that's the stupid one. I can try to play with the ones that like sort of seem to match my intelligence, but that's definitely the stupid one over there. And Master Shantideva said, no, you can't discount anyone because it's true that there is a secret wisdom if we get the karma to see it or hear it. That actually the stupidity you're seeing, sorry, has absolutely nothing to do with that person and has everything to do with your stupid karma that you created. Sorry, in Buddhism, no escape from that. Okay, sorry, but you're welcome, because if it does come from me, what does that also mean? I can change it. The stupid person isn't a stupid person in and of themselves. It has something to do with my karma. What's karma, Brenda?
It's a movement of the mind and what follows.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what do I mean exactly when I say that something is my karma?
It's how you're experiencing whatever's happening around you.
Mm-hmm. So there's something definitely happening, right? Like if I throw my computer across the room, I'm probably going to break it, right? Things are real. Things are still real. But there's something about the way my mind moves, karma, movement of the mind. My mind moves. And what happens? There's this, we call it a projection in this school called 3 Jewels. We call it a projection. Different teachers and teachings will call it different things. We call it a projection. My karma happens and boom, stupid person. And then the mistake that I make is, oh, look at that stupid person. And in a Buddhist Sangha, in the community, and I do this all the time, like I'll be like, oh yeah, you know, say something like judging somebody. And then you're like, oh, I just said a lot about myself right now, didn't I? And that's why Lord Buddha says, do not judge another person. Why? The moment you judge them, you are just cementing in this shitty karma to see them as a shitty person. Wouldn't it be much better if I was surrounded by teachers? Right? And arrogance tries to convince us that we need to be the best all the time. Arrogance tries to convince us that we need to be the best. And if you're not the best, you have to hate yourself. But you have to be the best. Climb, fight your way to the top. That mindset, this, like, some people call it like a capitalist mindset or like a corporate mindset. That, but forget those labels. Whatever you call it, doesn't matter. That mindset of like, no, you're stupid, I'm better. That's what keeps them from being teachers. Just see if you can hear this. That's what keeps them from being teachers, is that judgment. And we'll get deeper into that and how it functions. I think almost everyone is here now. Santi, can you do me a favor and disable the chat? We're going to begin, and I am going to hopefully share the correct PowerPoint. Here you are. And then I need to find your faces again, which are right here. Okay. All right. Thank you for bearing with me. I wish you could all be in this room right now. Looks good, you can see it? Nice. Okay. Class 5, we're halfway there. I'm giving the classes names because I like to. This class is called The Technology of Enlightenment. It's called The Technology of Enlightenment. And a little bit on that. We're going to be studying logic. Logic is very boring. So I thought if I called it The Technology of Enlightenment, you would think it was some cool Kundalini thing. Really, it is a cool Kundalini thing. You need to have the karma to understand that it is. Hopefully, please, please. And I'm going to try to bring you there by inviting you to show up for the rest of the world right now. It's not about you. Forget your problems. They'll be there after class. Forget your problems. Show up right now for everyone else who needs to hear these teachings through you. So maybe close your eyes. We're not going to do a meditation, but just close your eyes. We'll just do a minute. Some of you are already forming relationships with the being that you will become. If you know what I'm talking about, become that being. Then if you don't know what I'm talking about, become the being that brings all others to enlightenment. Just step into that mind now. Step into that body now. Your only motivation is compassion. You have the power, the bandwidth, the resources to understand and disseminate this information in a way that will radically alter the fabric of this universe, of this realm. And to prove it to yourself, think in your mind now of the last time you taught someone something that really helped them. We'll do just a very short rejoicing practice. Think about the last time. It doesn't need to be Buddhist stuff. Think about the last time you helped someone with something, or you taught them something that helped them. And feel good about it. Then open your eyes, come back. Be that person. Don't let your mind move from that. Inspo, inspo, inspo. The thing that we are most attracted to, we become. Hector said that once, and I thought that was really interesting. So here's some archetypes to play with. Use what resonates. So prayer time, we start by offering a pure world. Think of heaven, if you have that. Think of heaven. Think of the perfect world. I'm gonna do this so I can mute myself. Anthony, have I? No, Leah. Leah, because it's Leah's birthday. Can you do it, please? Sorry, Anthony.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm offering this to you, Rachel. Sashi Puki Jushing Meitop Drum Hera Blingshi Ningde Gempadi Songge Shingdu Mikte Owargi Drokun Nandak Shingla Druparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kemniyatayami Songge Shudang Soki Choknamla Yangchu Bardu Daki Kabsuchi Daki Chinyam Gipe Sunam Ki Rola Penshir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Shudang Soki Choknamla Jangchu Bardu Daki Kabsuchi Daki Chinyam Gimpe Sunam Ki Rola Penshir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Shudang Soki Choknamla Jangchu Bardu Daki Kabsuchi Daki Chinyam Gipe Sunam Ki Rola Penshir Sangye Druparsho.
Okay, thank you. So we just said, we just made a prayer for any people who it might be their first time doing this prayer, or if you haven't received an explanation on it before. The second one, so the first one is a bribe to teachers, if they exist. The tradition in many cultures is to offer beautiful things to them in exchange for their wisdom. I think in American culture, we don't have this at all. At least I did not treat teachers this way. Maybe I did. But that's the practice. It's like saying, hey, please tell me. If there's a way out, I want to know. If there's a way to get bliss, can you please tell me? Here, I'll give you everything I have. Traditionally, you liquidate all of your assets into gold dust, everything, and then you give it to the teacher. Like Geshe Michael gave his checkbook to Ken Rinpoche, and Ken Rinpoche just like threw it back at him. Anyway, there's many beautiful stories on that, especially with Lady Nuguma. The refuge and the wish is like a prayer to gravity. It's a prayer to emptiness, how the world really works. It's like birds being like, oh, gravity, you help me fly. It's because of you that I can travel from place to place. When a Buddhist goes to refuge, we're saying, oh my gosh, thank God everything is empty of a nature. Because everything is empty of a nature, including my teacher, including these teachings, including my mind, including my friends on the path, this means that they have no nature of being normal. There's nothing inside them. There's no like pit, like in an avocado that's normal, that's radiating normal at you. It means that it can change. It means that that's why we pray to it. It's like praying to gravity. Remind me that it exists, because I forget a lot. And we do it 3 times. Okay, blah, blah. Santi, are you recording?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I started recording late, but I think my intro was pretty good. I'm just joking. Okay, here's where we are. Great Ideas of Buddhism is in a larger context, right? This is like a 60-hour training. For some of you, you're on the final 20-hour stretch, which is this. Some of you, it's your first class. Don't worry if it's your first class. You're meant to enter the stream whenever you enter the stream. But just know this. What came earlier when we were talking about Master Shantideva, that was part 1 and 2 of this particular aspect of the training, which is the 3rd part of the training. So it's like part C, number 1 and 2. We finished that already. Just so you know, if you want to go deeper, each of those parts, we did 2 days. Wait, right? Yeah, we did 2 days on each part. However, there is a much more extended, deeper, beautiful, actual course for each of those 2 days that are 10 classes long. And we call them, at 3 Jewels, we call them ACI classes. That's short for Asian Classics Institute. This is just, I want you to know this, because when you are in a group with like other people that have been doing this for a little while, they'll be like, oh yeah, it's an ACI 7. And you're like, what are you even talking about? So we're on part 3, which is Asian Classics Institute course 13. It's called The Art of Reason or something. Hector called it Proving Logic to Freedom. And I'm calling it the Technology of Enlightenment. What you need to know is that this week is really, really hard. It's about logic. If you've ever studied logic like in a Western way, like setting up the logical syllogisms, if A is B and B is C, then A is C type of thing, it's gonna be a little bit like that. And I'm gonna do my best to make it relatable. I also want you to know where this falls in the context of a monastic education, which if we're talking about Geshe Michael, it's like 25 years of study. His teacher, who's right above his head, which I did not plan, but actually really works, if you know the traditional visualizations, that's Ken Rinpoche. Ken Rinpoche, okay, is like one of the lead tantric masters in this lineage. He studied directly with Pabonka Rinpoche. Who did Pabonka Rinpoche study directly with? Zoe. See if you remember. It's okay. Just unmute yourself. Who's the other big one?
There's some trees in Rinpoche.
No. Who's the other big one?
Oh no, you asked the wrong girl.
No, you know it.
Jason. Oh.
Yeah, and who did Jason Kappa study directly with?
Oh my God, no! This is all the stuff I.
Danielle Karuna knows this. We're getting esoteric quickly.
Who did Jason Kappa study with?
Yeah. Who did he get the transmission from?
I don't remember.
Which was it?
Was it Master Shantideva?
No.
Isn't it Maitreya?
Yeah.
Manjushri? It's Maitreya. Right?
I think it was Manjushri. Sometimes I get that mixed
Yeah,
up.
direct download from Manjushri.
So Jason Kappa. So listen, you need to know the lineage, right? Jason Kappa had a direct transmission with Manjushri, this angel who is a Buddha. You can believe it or you cannot believe it, doesn't matter. Then he passes it on to Pabonka Rinpoche. Pabonka Rinpoche passes it on to Ken Rinpoche. Ken Rinpoche passes it on to Geshe Michael Roach. And together, Just so you know this, all right? Asian Classics Institute is co-founded by Ken Rinpoche and Geshe Michael Roach. They created these courses together. You want to know, oh, guess what? This other guy in black and white, you should know about him. He's not in this lineage. This is Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. This is like Rachel's personal like prostration to people who inspire her. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche is in a different lineage, Shambhala lineage. He founded Shambhala lineage. So you should know what these monks go through, okay? Because if you think this is hard, this is nothing. And so this is to inspire you, okay? Not to make you feel bad, okay? Be inspired. So this is what monks generally do. They get 12 years on Prajna Paramita, 12 freaking years on the perfection of wisdom, 4 years on Madhyamika, middle way philosophy, AKA study of emptiness. 4 years on that. Then they study the Abhidharma, which is Hinayana, AKA Theravadan. If these words don't mean anything to you, don't worry about it. You don't need to know quite yet. That's 2 years. Then you get Vinaya, which is 2 years. What are my vows? And how the F do I keep them? Because there's like 200 something. There's way more for monks and nuns than for lay people. Dulwa is a cool word. It's talking about your vows or your Vinaya, but it's like the word that they use for training a wild horse. And it's like your mind is like a wild animal. And that's why the Buddha's like, here, like, you know, come here, you can have this little like piece of food. You know how like you have to make friends with a wild animal? Any stray cat ladies in the chat? Okay, the way you get a wild animal to start to trust you and to behave is like making it these little offerings on a regular basis. And then it starts to trust you and behave in a more predictable way. And the Vinaya is kind of like that. And for those who have a 6 times a day practice, you know this. You get a little book, you write down your vows. Don't kill people. Yay, I didn't kill people today. Don't lie to people. Yay, I didn't lie to people today. Oh shit, I lied to someone. Okay, how do I make that up? And it's like gently treating your mind and training your mind, guiding it gently. This is how to have a Buddha's mind. Over here like this. No, come back. This is how to have a Buddha's mind. That's what the study of Vinaya is. They get it for 2 years. Then what we're doing tonight, which is logic and perception. Okay, this is like 7 years worth of study. We're gonna do it in 4 hours. So if some of it feels a little bit out there, that's okay. It just takes time. It just takes time. More than 1 year, okay? So just try, see what you can make of it. And it's really beautiful what the monks do. They study this stuff over and over and over and over, and then they debate on it. So there's this whole practice and ritual, which is why 3 Jewels has a cafe to begin with. But let me draw the connection. There's a whole practice and ritual every single night. All of the monks, you know, I don't know what the nuns do, and I want to know. I can only vouch for the monastic experience. I would assume that nuns do this too. Anyway, every night they go out into the courtyard and they literally debate this stuff. You don't get notes. You don't get a PowerPoint. It's whatever you have retained in your studies. And in the monastery, you memorize texts. So if you ever come to Nepal with us, or you ever go anywhere where there's like a monastic education, you'll see they hold the text and then they kind of walk around. I remember watching this child from my window walking around and just reciting over and 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 over. And then you go out and you have to defend, you know, is enlightenment possible for a dog? You know, is it true that angels always appear to be angels? You know, and so on and so forth. So it's a very beautiful practice. We're going to learn a little bit about it. But the reason why we have a cafe at 3 Jewels is so people can debate. It's actually so people can debate and discuss. And we won't do the traditional form at 3 Joules because it's a little bit scary. Oh, I want to say, wait, do I want to say this now? Hold on, let me think. Let me come back. Yeah, I do want to say it now. So 2 out of the 3 guys in this picture were like bombed out of their homes. And they had to run with whatever they could effing carry. And that was the Dharma they had. Like that happened in Tibet. We all know that, right? Like people talk about Tibet, the Dalai Lama, is Tibet China, is Tibet not China? My point about this is that there's an urgency for us to understand these concepts. There's not a bunch of other people that know this stuff that are like hiding somewhere. It's true that there's a Sangha in Arizona. It's true that there's a Sangha in China. It's true that there's a Sangha in Eastern Europe, and that there are people that are trying to habituate these things. But I guess what I'm saying is, don't think that it's someone else's job to pass this on. Like each of you are the people that are internalizing these concepts, and then you will be the teachers. Don't worry that you don't have the crimson robes. It's the realizations that make you a teacher. And so I guess what I'm saying is there's this kind of urgency. Like we don't know when things are going to change and shift. And when those things change and shift, we know, like COVID, right? When they change and shift, all we have is here. It doesn't matter that I have this great logic text. If this isn't in my mind, it's not there for me when things change, right? If the internet went out, and your computers died, could you teach someone how to get free? And it's okay, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to know everything, but do you know one thing? Do you know one thing really effing well? And if you don't, try to learn it in this breakout room, because we're going to be talking about the gakcha, which is a Tibetan word for, is it Tibetan or is it Sanskrit? I think it's Tibetan. Leah, thumbs up if it's Tibetan. Okay, it is Tibetan. That leads you to emptiness if you follow it. You know, it's like the white rabbit that leads you to emptiness if you follow it. If that's the one thing you can take away and pass on to someone, it's like when Lord Buddha taught, okay, here's my thing. I realized this like 4 years in. We don't tell you this though. You don't need to know all of the ACI courses to get enlightened. You don't. What's the proof of that? When Shakyamuni Buddha started teaching, he would just say one word and people in the audience would get spontaneous enlightenment. They would go into the direct perception of emptiness. They would have high yogic realizations. They would blip into their Buddha form. That's proof that you don't need to accumulate a bunch of knowledge. It could just be one thing. It could just be one thing. And it's important to know many things. It could just be one thing. So try to bring that urgency in your mind. Let me just get one effing thing clear. Like I always think about my own stupid mind. Okay, Rachel, just remember Lojong. Just remember Lojong. You know, that's like all I do. Try to find your one thing and see if you can hold that urgency in your heart when we go into the breakout rooms. Okay, I'm done yelling at you. Let me stop sharing my screen. Please, please, please know that I have the best intentions. Okay. Especially if it's your first night, if you don't know this word, don't worry. The teacher's assistants that are leading these groups, the breakout rooms, will explain what is a gakcha and how does it relate to our desires and our suffering. Okay? And I'm going to sort you. All good? I'm going to sort you. Huh? Someone's saying something. No? Okay. Okay, everyone except the breakout room teachers, accept your invite, please. And just introduce yourselves to one another. This is also a way to make connections, so it's not so virtual. Okay, we need someone in room 1. All right, everybody. Just give me 1 second. Is anyone not good alone? Okay, some of you are alone. Any quick questions before we go in? I think we'll do 10 minutes. Okay. Can someone make a noise? I just want to make sure I hear you.
Hi.
Now I'm like scared. I can't hear anything.
Wait, so we're not showing the video, right? The two husbands?
No, you're just teaching it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, are you good to teach?
Also, it's the thing that we deny, the thing we desire and that we get addicted to. Same as a sky flower. That's what I have in my notes.
Thanks, Sophia, for sharing that. I'm Santi. I know some of y'all.
Hi, Santi.
Hi. Cool. So I can do a bunch of explaining, but I also like to have conversations. So with that sort of teaching, that definition, a gakcha is this object we deny. What is this? Can someone explain what does that really mean? Why are we denying it?
Like
that we never saw it. Sorry. You continue now.
Well, nothing is self-existent. We have to deny it doesn't exist. So we deny it because it doesn't exist.
Cool. And how does it not exist?
We never saw it, we never heard of it, so we think it doesn't exist. So that's why we deny it, because we don't know, right? No one told us about it. Is that correct?
Yes, in a way. I think, Christiane, did you want to say something?
I was just gonna say, like a jackalope, it exists purely in the mind, but not in the physical form.
Right. Like these are some examples to try to get us to understand like what they mean when they explain gakcha. You know, something that doesn't really exist. But when you say it, your mind kind of puts it together. You see a jackalope, you know, with antlers and stuff. But let's click down a little more and kind of think about all the gakchas that are constantly moving around you. Can someone give me an example of like a gakcha in their life?
Would it be a story that I'm new to this word, would it be a story that you're telling yourself that maybe just isn't true?
That could be, yeah, that could be a form of it, right? Like the story of, you know, let's say your boss. I have issues with authority, so I like this example. Or your client, you know? We have certain our habit is to see things as self-existent, as being out there, separate from me, has nothing to do with me. It's just my boss, they're a micromanager, blah, right? I have a certain story that I project upon the person I call my boss. And that you can even go as far as the way you perceive yourself. What sort of narrative do I have of me, Santi? Does everyone kind of follow? Yeah? Okay.
Could you explain a little more, please?
Yeah, so because in what we were studying last week, we started to get into the perfection of wisdom. And the perfection of wisdom is about, in essence, it's emptiness. And we know that the definition of emptiness means that things lack a self-existent nature. Things actually come from me. Like things are the way that I react to my boss or to my partner or to my mom or whomever. It's a karmic arising. It's this karmic seed that is ripening in this moment that's forcing me to have this experience as this person, as this thing, as XYZ. But the habit that we have is that we think that they're out there separate from us, that oh, if they're yelling at me, it's them just being an asshole. Like, I didn't do anything. That's our tendency to think that way. But what we're talking about when we talk about gakcha is like the boss who's yelling at you is the gakcha. The thing that we think exists self-existently, that's the gakcha. What it's really trying to push you to realize is that, again, in this example of the yelling boss, is that they're actually like this karmic ripening. They are a reflection of you, of your mind, of something that you've done in the past, which is ripening in this moment. That's the only thing that is real, that does exist. That's the emptiness of that person. That's the emptiness of the thing. Does everyone kind of follow? I know it's a little trippy. Sometimes I get like tripped up about it myself.
I feel a little bit confused about that example and then the examples of the sky flower or the jackalope and how like those are like imaginary. I guess, is this the point you're trying to make, is that like they're both imaginary?
Mm-hmm.
Like the boss and the sky flower?
Yeah, like those are classical examples because it's like, oh, I can see it. I can see it in my mind. It exists in my mind. I can see it. I know that it's not a real thing. I know that that's like an illusion, right? That couldn't exist. A sky just growing out of the flower could not exist. And so we're kind of using that as a sort of elementary example of like, see how your mind created the picture of a flower in the sky? Now, turn that up a notch and apply that logic to a real person in your life that you do think, no, they're out there separate from me. They are a real sky flower walking around. That's a real sky flower. It does exist. It's like, you get it. It's like the sky flower is the example for you to make that larger step and apply that same logic to yourself, to the people around you, and to everything, really.
Meaning that there would be no yelling boss. It will just be the boss if you did your job well, right? And if you did everything. So there will not be any kind of yelling boss. It will just be a person doing his job and you will be doing your job.
Well,
or is it,
right?
Sorry, or is it the boss yelling to complement that, Sophia? Like, or is it the boss yelling, but you're just like, okay. Or is it your reaction to the boss? Or is it what Sophia said?
Okay. So yeah, let's break down the scenario, like in slow-mo. We're gonna do the replay in slow-mo.
Let's do that.
Boss comes in, starts yelling. And we're like, our reaction is like, oh, they're angry. Where is anger? And again, like if you've been coming to these classes, we're going through some heavy content quickly, which is like, is the anger in the volume of the words being spoken? Is the anger in the words? Like, where is anger? Why do you see it as anger? Right? So that's number one. Number two, it's kind of like, do I see this person self-existent? Someone that's just like, has nothing to do with me, just woke up on the wrong side of the bed today and just is yelling and angry. Or is this really, can I look deeper and see that this is like sometimes a mirror is a really great metaphor for me to think about emptiness. This person that looks like a yelling boss, they're empty of a nature. The way that I perceive them is because it's a karma of something I've done in the past, arising in this moment, forcing my mind to have the projection upon the collection of parts that creates my boss. And so what's the most important thing to do in the next moment, right? Like, what is the karma? Okay, I recognize the karma that's ripening into the yelling boss. What kind of karma am I going to plant right now in that moment? Am I going to continue to think that they're self-existent? Am I going to think like, no, they're actually a jerk and they're stupid? Or am I going to think, oh, this is my karma ripening right now. And so I'm going to plant a seed, whether it's like through a thought that I have of like compassion, understanding, or how I act with them, what I say to them. What matters is the karma you're planting in that moment. Because it's like, do I want more yelling bosses, things that look like yelling bosses? Do I want more sky flowers showing up in my life like this? So what matters is the karma that you're planting in that moment. And so I guess with the question of like, what is the gakkcha, and then how does it relate to our desires and our harmful patterns? It's, again, when we did that slow-mo replay, it's recognizing what is the karma that's arising, and how do I plant the seed that breaks that pattern, breaks the harmful pattern, breaks the desire that I have to wanting to think that that thing is a sky flower. You know, I'm sorry, 10 minutes is a very short amount of time to like think on this, but just think about that. If you were to just like chart it out, start looking at people as if they're sky flowers for you to remember.
Okay. Both in a bad way and in a good way, meaning that it's not only harmful pattern, right? It can be a beautiful pattern, like a beautiful gakkcha, right?
Well, gakkcha meaning like the thing that doesn't exist. We say, like, I give you the example of it so that you can be like, oh yeah, that doesn't exist. And it's like, cool, now apply that to everything, because that's everything. Everything is just a reflection of you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Was it good? Were you all uncomfortable and had to say each other's names? And
we needed like another 5-10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's all good. It's all good.
We'll go. Well, I'm going to review it a little bit too. Thanks for letting me know, Hannibal.
Thank you.
Leave your daughter.
I think she wanted to see my daughter. I'm going to show you her quickly. 1 second. She's in there, if you can believe it or not.
She's in an IKEA bag?
Yep.
Oh.
Hi.
Oh my God. Who else has a baby? Show us the babies. That's really what we're here for. Hannibal, can you share the meaning of her name? Her full.
Yeah, sure.
I was thinking about it this morning.
My battery's about to die. Let me. Oh wow.
You're like, I don't remember.
Sion is like, what's that?
You're like, I don't remember anymore. That was 3 years ago.
What's yeah. So we took a combination of her names, of my mother's name and Helena's name, and Sion is like it's Zion basically, you know, from Babylon to Zion, like the promised land, you know, like it means many things biblically and, you know, the Old Testament and stuff. And then her middle name is Yeshi Almaz. Yeshi is the first part of my wife's mother's name, which means of 1,000. And then my mother's name Almaz is means diamond. So Zion of 1,000 diamonds. And then my wife's first name is Helena, which means conscience, which is her last name. We gave her my wife's first name. So it's a combination of.
For those who have vow names, like we all get these names that are supposed to like relate to building with our virtue. And I think Hannibal's daughter has like the best vow name ever. It's like, anyway, so something beautiful to get you excited to talk about logic. Are we all back? Are we all thinking about the Gakcha? So Diego, what's a Gakcha?
Self-existing thing.
Okay, why do I care?
Because unless you find out what things are empty of, then you cannot stop planting with ignorance, and therefore you keep suffering.
Okay, good. John Chris, give me in different words why I care.
Because if we start practicing with looking for the emptiness of the different objects around us and keep looking for the Gakcha, then we can ultimately look at our own mind and see that there isn't that our mind can get to a Buddha mind, because we don't have a nature in our own mind, self-existently.
Cool. Okay, so the Gakcha is our ticket somewhere. Can someone else, does anyone else want to give me an example of how I apply the Gakcha? If not, it's okay. I can just go into it. Just jump in if you have it.
It's Zach.
Cool.
Zach. For me, this is like when I'm looking at a thing or I'm angry at something, the Gakcha for me, like when I'm looking at something and I'm like, well, this is happiness. It's happiness. This always makes me happy. And then I remember that everything that I'm looking at is a Gakcha, is that it doesn't exist. It's not happiness. It's just an experience I'm having. And then it's like I keep drilling to the bottom of that hole with everything. It's like, oh, the car is great. The car is good. You know, it's great for the environment. And then I hit the bottom. I'm like, well, no, it's not. This is just my experience, or it's all those things. And if you do that with enough, if I have done that with enough things, that it kind of just like, it's quicker. I don't spend 3 days deciding that I'm angry. It's like maybe 20 minutes. And it's like, oh, it's a Gakcha. It doesn't exist. It doesn't actually exist. You're mad at nothing.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the three of you.
Can you explain how the Gakcha is different from emptiness? Or
yeah, I'm going to talk about it right now. Thanks for asking, Donna. Cool. So we know that the Gakcha is our ticket somewhere. We know that from Zach's examples specifically, and also from taking and applying what John Chris said, there's something that's going to happen with my behavior and my experience of my inner and outer world if I work with the Gakcha. The example that I find so elegant, you know, I I like the esoteric stuff. I like the weird words because it makes me feel cool and elite. That is a mindset that I hope to crush by doing this next sentence. The way that Geshe Michael Roach teaches Dharma, it strips away the esoteric trappings. And the way that he teaches on the Gakcha is he uses something called the two husbands. Now, this is like a very stereotypical thing, but just bear with me, okay? Actually, no, I'll use Santi. I won't use a husband, okay? If that makes you feel better. His example is just like this, and it is so perfect the way that it is, and I hope that you appreciate it in the same way. If you don't, it's okay. When I'm in my kitchen, and I walk into my kitchen and I haven't washed the dishes, which happens often, both Santi and my mother, if she's still present, can both attest to this. It is a behavior that I have. I walk into the kitchen, the dishes aren't washed. And then my partner is yelling at me. Santi is saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you didn't wash the dishes. And then I say, don't you know how hard it is that I'm working at 3 Jewels? Don't you know that I work blah, blah, and then so on. And we're arguing back and forth, we're arguing back and forth. What's really happening in this kitchen? Santi's yelling at me, and what's my response? I get angry and defensive, and I yell back. If karma's true, what's gonna happen after I yell back? Someone unmute and tell me.
You're going to be yelled at one day.
Right. Like produces like. Thanks. I think that was Donna again. Thanks, Donna. Like produces like in karma. Causes produce effects. Effects are similar to the cause. An orange seed creates an orange tree. So if I yell at Santi, then what's going to happen? Then I'm going to get the results of yelling at some point in the future. But when I yell at Santi, this is the classical example. When I yell at Santi, which Santi am I yelling at? At that moment, there's 2 Santis in the room. One is the Gakcha. One is real Santi, okay? Stay with me. There's 2 Santis in the room. One Santi is the Santi that I didn't create, I have nothing to do with. It's not my fault that you're yelling at me. Can't you see how hard I'm trying? Why do you have to yell at me all the time? You're such a blah, blah. There's that Santi in the room. I didn't do anything wrong. Why are you yelling at me? And then there's the Santi in the room that I created. The Santi that I get angry at is the Gakcha. Why? You can't get angry at something that you know you created. You can't get angry at something that you know you created. So when I get angry at the Santi, when I get angry at Santi, I'm getting angry at a Santi that does not exist, because I can only get angry at a Santi that I didn't create. The Santi that I didn't create is impossible. She never existed. She won't ever exist. Never. That's the Gakcha. A Gakcha is something that could never exist. That's why we use the rabbit with horns or a 2-headed purple elephant. A Gakcha is something that is impossible. It is a self-existent thing. Self-existent things are impossible. What do I mean by self-existent thing? I mean a Santi that I didn't create who's yelling at me. Who's yelling at me. The experience is coming at me. It's not coming from me. And the whole linchpin here, just try to stay with it. Try to stay with it. The whole linchpin here is that we're getting angry at, and also we're craving and addicted to things that seem to have a quality inside of them that produce that experience. I'm angry at Santi because she's treating me unfairly, and I had no hand in creating that experience. Buddha says, that's impossible, that's a Gakcha. Same with your bliss. I need, what do I need? I need this shag rug from West Elm. It's like $400. I need like 7 of them in my house. We sleep on them with our dog. I really think that the rug has joy inside of it, and so I need more rugs. Buddha says that's impossible. Your mind is having this whole crazy story. Oh, I need to like not order DoorDash for 4 or 5 times to get this rug. And now I need to do all these changes and I'm freaking out. I need this rug. That's not really how I feel. But you see what I'm saying? It's something that doesn't exist. It's impossible for the bliss to come from the rug. It's impossible for the anger to be coming from Santi. I created it. How do I know? How do I know that it's true that the anger is not self-existently coming from Santi? Because my cat doesn't give a shit. There's just sounds happening and little mama isn't going, Santi, you're such an asshole. Don't you see how hard Rachel's working? Everything we get angry at, everything that we desire so much that it crushes us, anything that creates our suffering at all is actually an illusion. It's an impossible thing. It does not exist. That's the point of the Gokcha. And the rest of the whole freaking game in Buddhism is remember the Gokcha. Oh shit. What's happening? Remember the Gokcha. It's like what Zach said. And it takes time to habituate it. So you learn how to habituate it, meaning you learn how to make that your first impulse. But we're like starting at a handicap. Is that how, like, when you play a video game and then you like turn down all of the positive like qualities that get you ahead? It's like that. Like we're screwed a little bit because in all of these previous lifetimes, we've habituated it the other way. The good feeling comes from the alcohol. I have to drink more. The happiness comes from the vacation house, the loft apartment, you know, money. So now we're trying to learn a new way, and the technology of that new way is called logic, and we're going to do it. I'm sharing my screen now. Was that okay on the Gokcha? Are you okay? All right. This is cool. Prepare to think something is cool. Can you see this? This is the debate ground thing. You don't really need volume, but hopefully the volume works. Oopsies. Why isn't it working? Oh, here we go. Can you hear it? Can you hear it?
To understand Tibetan Buddhism, there's no better way than watching monk debate. All right, what is monk debate in the first place? In Tibet, a monastery is like a Buddhism school, and monk debate, just like the dissertation defense in college, is the unique way for Tibetan monks to attain a higher understanding of Buddha's teaching. However, the process of higher understanding doesn't come easy. During the monk debate, you will see an intense but meanwhile peaceful scene. Standing monks would use exaggerated whip-like handplay to ask questions related to some Buddhism philosophical topics. Then, another sitting monk or several monks answer the question based on their comprehension of Buddhism scriptures, and the two sides then argue back and forth with a mix of drastic loud clapping, aggressive pointing, and intense verbal exchange that makes you somewhat understand it, even if you have no idea what they're saying. On the other hand, when you are just thinking they are about to fight, the peaceful smile on every monk's face indicates that they're actually enjoying it a lot. It is this unique style that keeps captivating tourists from all over the world. If you want to see this unique monk debate, the best places to go to are...
Sorry. That's it, though. They actually talk about Sarah Monastery, which we know monks who have gone there. So this hold on, I want to I want to stop sharing for just a moment. So this scene, this is something that if you take the full course of the logic course, you actually learn how to debate. And I want to break down just a couple of the symbols of what's actually going on. And I don't think Earl is here because I saw Sarah sitting alone. But if you want to study with someone who is like a master, you have to pull it out of him, I think, because he doesn't always, like, he doesn't go around being like, I am a master at Tibetan Buddhist debate. But if you ask Earl, he teaches Friday nights at 9 p.m. I'm going to send you all to his class. Go and ask him to talk about these concepts. There's him, and then there's a couple of other people in the extended Sangha in Arizona who are extremely, 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 extremely proficient at saying how it is that you know what you know. Can you defend that point to me? And then sort of picking out the pieces of logic that get you to question, like, wait, why am I even doing this practice? Does Tonglen actually help people? Does it actually help me? Why am I doing this practice? And you should know what they're doing, okay? When they pull back the mala, their rosary, which I don't have mine with me tonight, but when you see the monks, there's an attacker and a defender. And I think this is really cool, okay? Because it's like a symbol of what happens in your mind. The defender is just sitting there, and they only get a couple different answers. They can basically say like yes or no. And then the attacker, the guys that are standing up and like smashing their hands like that and stepping down on the ground, they are asking all these questions, and you only get to say, like, you can only say yes. And they're like, so you really think that a benevolent creator God would create childhood cancer? And you're like, so it's in a way, to me, it like represents a little bit about how our mental afflictions are harassing our mind. And that's the point of debate. The point of debate, and that's why they're smiling, you know? It's not about winning. It's about getting an understanding of like, how the F do I stay one step ahead of my personal issues? By using reason. They can't break through. It doesn't matter how depressed I am. I know that if I throw something out of my window, it's going to land on the ground, because gravity is something that I know and I understand. It's the same with putting a certain track of logic and facts in your mind. Once you've proven them to yourself, the sandstorm, the shitstorm of our own mental afflictions, it won't move it. Okay, another beautiful thing is the stomping and the clapping. You should know what they're doing. When they pull back the mala, the 108 beads, it's pulling all of the beings from the lower realms. So those who've studied on the different realms in Buddhism, it's like they're saying, with the power of this debate, may I rescue all of the beings who are suffering in the hell realms, in the hot and cold realms, all of the hungry spirits. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry. Let me pull them all out of these realms and then slam the gates of hell shut forever with the power of this debate. And so that's like their motivation right there. I thought that was really beautiful.
Rachel, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so it's like they're pulling, when they pull back the mala, and then they're pulling all of the beings up from the lower realms. This is what the gesture means. And then they're slamming the door shut on hell. What is hell? It's a movement of the mind. I'm not going to teach the realms tonight. That's another discussion. If you want to stay after class, we can talk about hell. We can talk about heaven. We can talk about Buddhas. Okay, sharing my screen again. And we're going to move through the actual content. I have to do a big build up, okay? Okay, this is like my final, like, getting ready for takeoff moments. The material is hard. You may have already experienced that when we're talking about the Gakcha. The material. Oh, you can't hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, Zach, you were doing something with your hands, and I was like, oh no, am I muted? Okay, the material is difficult and boring. It can be. Usually when I've seen these courses and these classes, I've seen it come and go in waves. Plenty of people check out at this course. You'll see like half the people leave. Don't leave. This is the most important thing. Be one of those people who sits and says, I'm not going to let boredom or confusion or the need for constant stimulation move me from this place. It's like when the Buddha sat under that tree and said, you know what? I've tried every fucking practice. I'm not moving until I get an insight. You know, so stay, be one of, especially if you have Bodhisattva vows. If you made a promise to take care of everybody, you need to know this stuff. Sorry, it's boring. I will try to make it sexy for you. And then commentary by Jenny Holzer. Die fast and quiet when they interrogate you, or live so long that they're ashamed to hurt you anymore. That's a personal message to inner demons. Either let them defeat you or be so unshakable that they're embarrassed that they're trying to mess with you. Be so unshakable that they are embarrassed to mess with you. Okay? Now we're going in. Question number 1, what are we studying? It's called the Pramanavartika. You can see it on the second line towards the middle. Pramanavartika is the Sanskrit. Semanamdrel is the Tibetan. This is a commentary. The Buddhist texts are divided into two collections. It's like the source text and then the commentaries. This is a commentary on a source text. The source text is the Sima Kuntu by Master Dignaga. But where we're getting the primary amount of information from is from the Pramanavartika, Commentary on Valid Perception by Master Dharmakirti. No Master Dharmakirti. Also no Master Dignaga and their dates. This image is what the scriptures actually look like. Some of you have scripture like this in your homes. That's question number 1. This is Master Dignaga. Look at him pulling the beings up from the lower realms. And then he's about to slam the door shut. You know, if that does something for you, keep it. If not, forget about it. Another cute note, very inspiring. Gyaltsab was one of Je Tsongkhapa. Remember Je Tsongkhapa? He's the one that got a direct transmission from a Buddha. The Buddha appeared in his room and gave him a download on the steps to the path, which is what you study in the first ACIs, the Lamrim. Lamrim is steps on the path. His main disciple said the kindest thing he ever did of all of the practices is to teach him logic. And Geshe Michael talked about this too when he originally taught this course in the 90s. He said one of his teachers, I think it was one of his Mongolian lamas, was dying. And the lama was just reading the logical text. And Geshe Michael was like, Lama, like, don't you want to do some tantric ritual or something? Like, you're dying, dude. Aren't you going to, like, you know, do some of these advanced practices? And he said, no. This stuff is what's going to help me. Okay, so also called touching the diamond world. There's a world we cannot see. According to this stuff that we're studying, logic, there's a world that we can't perceive yet. Is that true? Is there evidence of that? Yeah, look at light. There's a bunch of stuff that we can't see. We already know that because there's certain like insects and bugs that can perceive different types of light that we can. That's just an example. Some of you probably know way more about that than me. Okay, so now we need to study perception. We need to figure out if there's this world that I can't see, if there's this thing I can't see called emptiness, if there's these worlds that I can't see, which is like the diamond world where a Buddha lives, how the F do I see something that I can't see? And the Buddhists are like, well, you got to figure out the machine that you're working with. Let's study perception. And there's two types of perception. There's pramana or tsema, which is a valid perception. Am I screaming at you? I feel like I'm screaming. How's my volume? I'm just excited. Zach's like, it's okay. He's shrugging. There's pramana or tsema, which is a valid perception. Santi loves to say this when we're debating. She likes to say, well, my opinion is valid. And it's true. Everyone's opinion, everyone's experience is valid for them, unless it's a mistaken perception, which is a perception that's under the influence of heavy emotions like rage, mind-altering substances, or you're just making a mistake. So the classic example would be like you're driving, if you drive, and then like there's a stick in the road and you hit it and you're like, oh no, that was like a small creature. And then you realize it was just a stick. Something like that. So those are mistaken perceptions. That's a small amount of the time for most people. Okay. And then, you know, we're not going to talk too much about this now, but that's why there's Vinaya or vows around mind-altering substances. Pramana or tsema happens 99% of the time. We're having a valid perception. Okay, there's two types of pramanas or valid perception. There's direct, and then there's deductive. Okay, directly, you can see that there's a plant here, right? It's really far away, wow. Okay. There's a plant here, right? You can see that directly. Then, but you know that the part you see on the screen, there's probably more plant out here. In the same way, like my hand didn't just disappear and then reappear on the end of my arm when I bring it back into the screen, right? How do you know that? You know it from deduction, right? Like I didn't scream in pain when I reached my hand out this way. Or like gasp because something strange happened. You can assume that the hand is still at the end of the arm. You can deduce that there's another plant here because you can hear it, right? Both of these are valid ways of experiencing reality. Part of what we're doing, the big thing is emptiness, right? If I can see that there's no nature to my mind, then I can expedite my process towards bliss. If I see that there's no nature to the mental afflictions that seem to control me and my life, then I can get to where I want to be. I can deduce that will help me, and that will help me engage in practices so that I can have a direct experience, which will help me move even faster. Part of the way that we can do that is by debating internally, debating externally. There's this really beautiful practice way back when, where debate was like how you would get converted to another religion. They had this thing where you would go and you would debate with like different schools of thought in India, I think probably also in Tibet. And you'd get like your best debater and you would put them up with like the other person's best debater. Then if your debater lost, you have to convert to what they think. Because otherwise it's stupid. Otherwise, you're just listening to things that have no basis in reason. You can't even prove why you believe what you believe. And then you would go with the other person. There was also this station that you would have as a debater protecting like the main gate to a monastery or temple. And it would function that way too. Okay. Why do we want to study logic? It helps us see emptiness directly. Why do we want to see emptiness? If I can understand that everything that pisses me off doesn't exist, that will help me not be pissed off. If I can see that the body that must suffer when I die doesn't exist, that means something, right? That will change everything. And then Maitreya comes up and he's like, Maitreya's another Buddha. Maitreya is the future Buddha. And Maitreya is like, there's two kinds of students with this stuff. There's dull students who follow things by faith. And then there's sharp students who reason why they will do something. Okay, faith in this context is different than, I think, okay? I'm not studied in any other religion aside from this one. But what I can say is I think the utility of faith here is you become like a puppy dog. And you see this. People meet a teacher, they like love the teacher, they're charismatic, right? And then you just kind of want to be around them. And then they just follow them around. Oops, you're in a cult. You're not making your own decisions. You're screwed if you hand your power over to someone in that way. The Buddha said, Maitreya said, the Buddha, he said, you want to be a smart student? Use logic. If you use your power of logic, there's no way that anyone can make your decisions for you. Figure out why you're doing the practices that you're doing and be firm and clear on it. This is what will rescue you. Okay.
Hey, Rachel, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So with, for example, the examples you gave, like if the thing that's pissing me off doesn't exist, that's liberating.
Yeah.
And if my body doesn't exist, I find that very, very liberating.
Oh, it's not that your body doesn't exist. It's that the body that gave you pain, that kept you in suffering, doesn't exist. My body exists.
Got it. Well, I, like you, to me, that these thoughts are so liberating.
Mm-hmm.
But what if someone interprets them as meaningless? What if it leads them to nihilism?
Mm-hmm.
How do you argue that?
If someone says that nothing matters, like, oh, my body doesn't exist. Okay, go hold your hand over a flame for 10 minutes. Go put your hand in the flame so that the flame is touching you and hold it for 10 minutes. And then tell me your body doesn't exist. You know, or if we wanted to be a little bit less intense, I don't know. I think that one holds. You can think of your own example, how gentle you want to be. But it's not true. Nihilism saying that things don't exist or they don't matter. This is like one of the traps that we fall into in studying emptiness. And we all will fall into it. Because if we really understood emptiness, we just wouldn't be suffering right now. It wouldn't happen. Like I wouldn't have to get up and pee after I taught. I wouldn't have to feed my body again. You know what I mean? Like the suffering would be gone. So it's safe to say that like at any point we're falling into either eternalism or like self-existentism or nihilism, nothing exists. And when we meditate on emptiness, the mind will go here, and then it'll go there, and then it'll go here. And then finally, when we get shamatha, single pointed focus, we can cut through to the truth, which is emptiness, which is incredibly subtle and difficult to get to. And I'll talk a little bit more about how we'll get there, but that's a great question. And I would say just be patient with people when they don't understand things. You know, that's also a karma that we're experiencing, and they might just be pretending to not understand. And we'll get to that on the next slide. Okay. Second reason why study logic. JJ, can you read this, please?
Suppose a person comes to understand the scriptural tradition for how to reason, this art of proving or disproving things. A master like this is a person who keeps the teachings of the totally enlightened Buddha safe here in the world. Sakya Pandita, 1182 to 1251, to prove it to your own mind.
Cool. So yeah, it's like we get the realizations from studying this stuff. Second reason to study logic, keep Dharma in the world. It's kind of like what I was saying at the beginning. Whether or not we want it, we're inheriting this lineage, and then, you know, the people that feel inspired to will keep it alive in generations to come. Just because I'm not a Tibetan man, it doesn't mean that the stuff I'm saying to you is not true. You know, it's like it's our responsibility to try. If, you know, if there's something beautiful here, we have to share it. And then we try to be as authentic as we can to the lineage. That's why we read these scriptures. That's why it's so important to learn the Tibetan and learn the Sanskrit, because you literally get to repeat the words of the Buddha, how he said them when he taught them, if he is real. Okay. Can someone else just unmute and read? I can only see like 6 of you right now. Hold on. There we go. Alana, can you read this?
I knew you were going to ask me. I don't know how. Why study logic? Stop causes of suffering. Only I or someone like me is able to judge another person. No other person should ever judge another, for they will surely fail.
Thank you.
Fall. Sorry, I always get that mixed up.
That's okay. If we had everything that we wanted, we would just want to share this stuff. We would just want to share it, right? Like if you had no concerns about money, if you had no concerns about health, you had your perfect partner, you felt creatively fulfilled, what else do we care about? Good food, family's all safe and healthy, friends are all safe and healthy. Then what would the next thing be? Once you have everything that you want to help other people. So figure out what's true. Then you can give it to them. That's what Lord Buddha is saying. And this is also the quotation that I utilized in the earlier teachings. Judging someone is what prevents them from being a teacher for me. It literally prevents me from hearing their words as teachings. There's nothing inside the person that makes them a good teacher or a bad teacher. Every good teacher you had has been your karma, and every bad teacher you've had has been your karma. And it's actually really beautiful, especially if we have amazing teachers, to reflect on the fact that there's something that we did in the past that's now forcing us into an experience of enlightened teacher or Arya teacher or whatever. And then, you know, very humbling when you have a teacher that you don't like, or they do things that you don't like, to say, oh man, somehow I created the causes to experience them. And who is me? You can think of it as someone who held your mind stream. Because it's not always me, Rachel. Could also be people in the previous lives who had my mind stream that had a different name. I don't know what the hell they did. I have no idea what the hell they did. Thank you for creating 3 jewels. You kind of fucked up on society, but I'm grateful for the Dharma. And then that's how we work with it. There's no guilt and shame. Okay, good? Keep moving. We have to move very quickly now. Okay. This is us, jumping to conclusions about our world. And when we do this, when we jump to conclusions, there's a subject of the conclusion that we're jumping to. There's an assertion about the subject, and there's a reason why we think that. So this is breaking it down like math. Consider sounds. They are changing things because they're made. Consider sounds. They are changing because they are made. For example, boiling water creates steam. This is a classical example, and it's utilized because when initially when these debates were popular, they're talking about the sound Om as an eternal thing. And this particular Buddhist school said, no, sorry, Om isn't an eternal thing because it was created. Okay. Consider Santi. She makes me angry because she yells at me like a yelling parent. Maybe my mom's still here. But we know this, right? Like, this is what our minds do. Oh my gosh, you're doing this to me. You're making me angry because you're doing this. You're just like this other person in my life who treated me this way. You make me angry because you don't do the thing that I want you to do. Just like this other person. Here's all my evidence, right? You make me feel this way because other people did the same thing. Now I have evidence in my mind of why I should be angry at you. Now we need to figure out how to take this apart. Okay, here's another example. And we're going to talk about how to destroy those assumptions that we make. This is another one. Geshe Michael threw it in there. This harkens back to the conversations about why there can't be an unmoved mover who is an all-compassionate God. An all-compassionate God, creator God, did not create the world. Why? If they were so compassionate and they had total control over the way the world was, they wouldn't have created war. They wouldn't have created cancer for babies, at least. They wouldn't have created cancer for babies, maybe for old people, but why babies? Okay, they wouldn't have created systemic racism. Boom, proved it wrong. Okay, obviously the conversation is much more nuanced than this, but this is an example breaking it up into subject, assertion, and reason. And, you know, the point, I'm not going to go there yet. When we don't go to your Catholic friends and say your God doesn't exist, that's not the point of this class. Do not evangelize people if they come to you and ask questions, right? Because you don't want someone to come up to you and say, everything that you believe is wrong, here's why. It's more about our ability when people ask us and they're interested to have a gentle conversation. Oh, that's really interesting. Okay. So, like imagine if you could create the world, right? Oh yeah, yeah. If you could create the world, would you include baby cancer or not? No, you wouldn't, right? You wouldn't do that. Oh, interesting. Because you're like pretty nice, right? Yeah. No, I think you're nice too. So probably there isn't a compassionate creator God, right? Because they wouldn't, you just said you wouldn't. And so they probably wouldn't, if they were compassionate too. Oh, it's like that. It's not forcing. Okay. And here's a way to think about it. And this is really beautiful. In Buddhist debate, a reason, right? Subject, assertion, reason. Santi makes me angry because she's yelling at me. Santi makes me angry because she's wearing yellow pants. Santi makes me angry because dishes. They're saying, listen, whoever you talk to, even yourself, the reason is valid. Whatever their reason is, accept it as the reason. And you know this because you've all gone and spoken to people who are having mental afflictions. And it varies on this scale of like, that doesn't make any sense. And you've heard people get upset and they're like, I'm so upset because, and then they say this ridiculous thing and you're like, I really don't understand why that's making you upset. They're saying, Master Dharmakirti and Master Dignaga are saying, whatever they say as their reason, you have to stick with that in your debate. Doesn't matter if you're Buddhist and they're not. You can't say because it's empty if they don't accept that things are empty. You have to go by their version of reality and disprove it. Whatever point you're contesting, you have to disprove their point using their rules. Sorry. You have to use their rules and their logic to prove it wrong. And if it's not good logic, you will be able to prove it wrong. If it's better logic than what's presented here, you should join their religion. That's what the Buddha says. If something is defeating what you believe and it is logically supreme, forget this. Go with the thing that's better. And Lord Buddha said that. He's like, don't just take it from me. You have to prove it to yourself. So a reason is anything put forth as such. Okay, I'm going to try to speed through this because we are short on time. So if the reason that someone gives is a correct reason, so we didn't say correct reason, right? We just said reason, accept their reason. But if it's a correct reason, then the three relationships must hold true. Here's the three relationships. Definitely write this down. Is there a relationship between the reason and the subject? Let's use, if you look at the blue box, this is the logical statement that we're working with. Is it true that 1 is 3? Consider sounds. That's my subject. They are made. That's my reason. Are sounds made? Yes. Relationship number 1 gets a check mark. Okay, next one. If it's 3, then 2 must be true. So if the reason is true, which is the third line, the assertion must be true, which is the second line. So if things are made, they are changing things. If something is made, is it changing? Yes. If we've studied karma, we know the answer is yes. Anything that is created must be changing. Why? You had to change to create it. Like produces like. Okay. This is also known as the positive necessity between the reason and the quality to be proven. But you can just say, if 3, then 2. Okay. Next one. If it's not 2, then it can't be 3. If it's not 2, then it can't be 3. So if it's not changing, it was not made. If it's not a changing thing, it can't be a made thing. Is that true? Yes, we just talked about it. Sometimes the second and third one, B and C, sound a little bit similar, but when you apply it to different logical statements, you'll see the utility of it. Okay, this is question 5 and 6, moving on. Let's go through and do some more examples. Consider sounds, they're changing things because they're made. We just went through this, we're gonna do another one. Consider water. It is wet because it is a liquid. Okay, is water a liquid? Yes. Are liquids wet? Yes. If it is not wet, it is also not a liquid. Yes, this is a correct logical statement. Okay, let's try another one. I'm just speeding through, okay? We're almost done. Consider sounds, they're changing things because they are not made. Because they are not made. Are sounds not made? No, sounds are made. Are things that are not made also changing? Nope. Changing things are created things. If they're not changing, so if they're unchanging, are they not made? Are unchanging things created? No. Unchanging things cannot be created because if they were created, they would be changing things. You know that if you study karma. Okay. Consider the sky. It is good to taste because it's blue. Is the sky blue? We'll say yes for the sake of time. Are blue things always good to taste? No. Trying to think of a blue thing that doesn't taste good.
Play-Doh.
Play-Doh. Play-Doh tastes pretty good though.
Play-Doh's delicious, thank you. Cleaning chemicals, they're blue.
Oh, cleaning chemicals, thank you. Like Windex does not taste good. So if things taste bad, are they not blue? No, because like there's some things that taste good that are blue.
Blueberries.
Consider the sky, it is good to taste because cats. None of that is going anywhere. Okay, consider Buddhism at 3 joules. It is the best religion because it is the one I follow. We'll say for the sake of argument that you're interested in Buddhism, but forget it if you're not and you're just peeking in. Okay, is it true that everything I follow is the best religion or is the best thing? Do I follow all of the best things? No, I follow some of the Kardashians on Instagram. So we know that my taste can sometimes be questionable. No, I'm just kidding. I'm only saying that because I know you'll laugh, but I really love Kylie. If things are not the best, is it true that I don't follow them? No, I just gave you an example, right? We love junk food and all things that are bad. Okay, keep going. All right, we're going to talk about all of existence in less than 10 minutes. Here we go. Put this in your mind. Consider all knowable things. All knowable things, they're called sheja. There's two main divisions of all knowable things. Forget unknowable things. Think about all knowable things. All knowable things are either takpa or mitakpa. Takpa means unchanging. Mitakpa means not unchanging. It means instant by instant. It exists instant by instant. So there's things that are stable and things that exist instant by instant. Takpa mi takpa. Stable, takpa, mi takpa, instant by instant, okay? Sometimes translated as permanent and impermanent. Forget that. Think about stable versus instant by instant, because there's some nuances and we'll get to them. So definition of takpa, write this down if you're doing your homework, just ingest it if you're not. Unchanging things are both a thing and that which does not last for only a moment. Phenomena do not arise from causes and conditions and are not affected by other phenomena. They do not change from moment to moment and do not produce any effects. For example, empty space, emptiness, and facts. Facts don't change. They either exist or they don't exist. The emptiness of this, no, that's not good. It's not glass. The emptiness of this vase is destroyed when I destroy the vase. But that doesn't mean that it's instant by instant. That's why we're saying this isn't that the emptiness of this vase, it's not permanent, because the emptiness of this vase can be destroyed when I destroy the vase. It will blip out of existence. So that's why we're talking about stable. The emptiness of this vase exists as long as this vase exists stably. It doesn't begin or end, because that would imply that it changes. Okay, if that's too much, don't worry about it. Just think unchanging, emptiness, empty space, and facts. Then changing things. Mi takpa. Mi is a negation. Takpa is unchanging. Mi takpa, not unchanging. It's phenomena which arise from causes and conditions. I'm reading this because it's quicker, but I will have you read in a moment. Phenomena arise from causes and conditions and are affected by other phenomena, change from moment to moment, and produce effects. So they're caused, they create effects, and they change moment to moment. Okay, Mitakpa has three different categories. There's physical, mental. That sounds good, right? There's physical things that are changing, mental things that are changing. Then there's something that's neither physical nor mental, because it is both physical and mental. And what is that? Here's a riddle for you all. Anyone want to guess?
Me.
Yeah, who said that?
Kelly.
Awesome, perfect. So a person, like, it's physical, right? And mental, right? But I'm not one or the other, I'm both. These are some other delineations of matter and mental. You'll get more of that later. I'm moving quick because we only have 9 minutes and there's more important stuff. So there's a question number 8 says, why is it not a good translation to say permanent and impermanent? And we sort of went over that because it has to do with emptiness. And it has to do with how it would affect our ability to consider or conceive of the unchanging or changing things. Emptiness is not permanent because it can blip out of existence when the thing that has the emptiness is destroyed. Yeah. And then we can read this long thing from the homework. Can someone just read it? Hold on, it's coming up. This is direct from the answer key, and I think it's pretty cool, so I'm just giving it to you. And it highlights the importance of translation. Can someone just read the condensed font, like after the blue line? Can someone just read that out loud to the class, please?
I can read it.
Thanks.
The English word impermanent in its current usage denotes something which is going to end and not last forever, whereas permanent denotes something that will not end or break. The point of the Tibetan and Sanskrit words, however, is to denote something which changes from instant to instant, something fleeting or transitory. In fact, the definition is something that only lasts for a moment. Conversely, things which are takpa, the opposite of vitakka, necessarily things forever. The emptiness of a cup, for example, goes out of existence when the cup breaks and came into existence when the cup was made, since it is simply the fact that the cup has no nature of its own. We do not, though, say that emptiness starts or stops, since this implies variability. And the point of things which are mitakpa is that they never change. Their quality of being is perfectly constant and consistent. Nothing is ever more or less than completely and purely empty of any nature of its own, for example. Sidebar, we should know finally, though, that in some of its usages, the word mitakpa is properly translated as impermanent, such as in the common Lamrim expression, shiwa mitakpa, impermanence in the form of death.
Cool, thank you. This is the most important thing, and I'm going to teach it in 6 minutes, all right? So buckle up your seatbelts. This is the way that we perceive emptiness. You want to get to that in your meditation? This is exactly what you need to study. And we'll do more of it on Thursday, but like drill down now. Now is the time to be unshakable. It's only 6 minutes. Look at the Buddha. He's looking at you. She's looking at you. Just try, okay? Just hold it, hold it. Chi Chedrak, this is the doorway to emptiness. Chi is a quality or category, and Jedrak is something that's characteristic of that category. It's a member of that category, okay? Food, bananas. Chi Chedrak, food, bananas. Okay, Buddhas, Maitreya, Manjushri, yeah? In the category. Okay, going next. So, all right. Okay, we're doing it. We're doing it. There's 3 different kinds of categories. There's 3 different kinds of cheese. There's 3 different kinds of categories, okay? Oh my gosh, and I'm so excited about this. And this is the blessing of teaching, is that I had an insight about this week. I'm so happy. Okay, Rikchi, Rikchi, say it out loud. And then Farah, can you read what Rikchi is?
Yes, a type of, or kind which has individual things which are a characteristic of Jidrak, defined as the existing thing which subsumes the multiple things which are of its type. For example, Sheja or car, carness versus a car and the car.
So there's the category of car, and then I go outside and I say, that car, my car. The car, the category that car, my car, fits into is car, Rikchi. Farah, can you do the next one too?
Yes, Dunchi, a car, not Drashi, a mental image. It can be defined as having 3 aspects. A mental image of something you've already perceived, like your refrigerator. You mistake it for the actual object, Madhyamika versus Satunatrika, pot or hell, forced validly to experience the same sensory input as X or Y, dependent on your karma. Feeling react.
I'll do this one. Sorry,
Okay.
it's shorthand. So thank you, Farah. So a dunchi, okay, it's like this mental image. It's like, imagine like a little pixel that gets bigger and bigger, and it like creates your experience. That's what I think of a dunchi. And what it does is it's this mental, it's not all visual either. It's also conceptual. Any of our senses, like there's a dunchi for taste, there's a dunchi for sound, but you think of it as visual. I think that helps when you start to think of it as a visual thing. And we mistake this image that comes out of our mind as the real thing. We mistake the image that comes out of our mind. We mistake the dunchi for what's really going on. When we do that, that's the gakcha. when I mistake my mental image that I created, that's forced on me by my karma, for what's really going on, that's when I've fallen into the trap of the illusion. It's a mental image, something I've already perceived, and I mistake it for what's really, really self-existently. I mistake it. I think that that's really what's going on, self-existently, which is why we say, like, is it a boiling pot of water, or is it a hell realm for the gnat that fell inside? I think it's just a pot of water. But I know that that's not true. Why? Put a live lobster in there and tell me that that's not just a boiling. Have you ever heard that? My grandma used to make us lobster, and you hear them scream. It's not really screaming, it's the air escaping from their shells, but you have that experience, right? They're boiling to death. Okay. So is it really a pot of water? It's my karma. It's the dunchi. I mistake the dunchi for my reality. This is a big mistake. Also, oh, and then here it says, I mistake it, right? Then I have a feeling. Then I have a reaction. Grandma, you're so bad that you killed those lobsters. Okay. And you arrive at this by negating everything that it is not. So I'm like, this one's a little weird. It was weird for me when I first learned it. It's still a little bit weird, to be honest. I know that it's a boiling pot of water because I know it's not a light bulb. I know it's not a human. I know it's not a couch. And what they're saying in this study of perception is that we realize that it is a boiling pot of water by sort of categorically going through everything that it couldn't possibly be, and then we get boiling pot of water. Okay, so just hold that. And then Farah, can you read the last one?
Yes. Silk chi, any particular car, nominal chi, a physical collection of parts, physical members that make up a whole. Sok means a group, and chi here means a general object that has its own parts, members, like atoms and matter, Abhidharma point of view, particles.
Right. Abhidharma point of view believes that the atoms or the particles, the things that my mental image covers and says, this is what's happening. The Abhidharma perspective says that all those little atoms that you're grouping together and you say that's boiling pot, the atoms are self-existently real. We know that that's not true. Why do we know that? Because we already analyzed the emptiness of raw data. Find atom in atom. Is it the top of the atom, the bottom of the atom? Oh, it's the center of the atom. Well, is it the top of the center or the bottom of the center? No, it's the center of the center. And so on, right? The emptiness of particles. Okay, we're gonna go 5 more minutes. Please, 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 please stay. So, we use the study of G. Chedrak to destroy the propaganda of our own senses. In Buddhism, consciousness is one of your senses, and all of our senses are telling us, hey, Diego, that person really meant to piss you off. Hey, you're really a piece of shit. You should believe that. Look at all this evidence that you're a piece of shit. You should go feel bad about yourself. It's not true. It's propaganda. How do I know? I have Buddha nature. That means I can become a Buddha. Use logic to destroy the propaganda of your own mind that you believe all the time. That's why Buddhists start to be a little bit crazy. You start to argue with yourself a little bit. Some people out loud, when I'm home alone, out loud. And we want to go from the deductive, Rachel's hand isn't disappearing, I think, to direct. Sorry, I'm trying not to drop the screen now. It's a little bit intense. Okay, we want to go from deductive to direct. We want to have an experience called chuchak, which is the direct perception of dependent origination. You want to see that dunchi flying out and covering all of the other empty particles with your perception. When you have that experience, and you can listen to Geshe Michael describing his experience of having Chuchak, then you sit down and you meditate on emptiness. And if you have the karma, you will see emptiness directly after you have that experience of Chuchak. Study Chi Chedrak, serve your Lama or serve your community, gather enough virtue or Kelwa, so that then you have Chuchak, sit down, meditate, perceive emptiness directly, and then what happens? Hector went all the way. When he taught this, he went all the way to the goal. He said, you can experience, you can become Humdruk, you can become a Buddha that's spontaneously emanating on countless planets. You can. Right now, you are locked in time and space because of a misperception. The Buddha's like, you just need to see it the way I'm seeing it, and then you won't have to suffer anymore. It's like the video of the little kid and they're holding the rope and they're like freaking out like they're gonna drown. Have you seen that one? And then they just stand up and the water was like 6 inches deep. Like it was like, you know, or the one with the shoe on the hand and it's like zoomed in and you see like someone's getting stepped on and then you zoom out and it's like they put the shoe on their hand. It's like that. Like that's the perspective. And the Buddha's like, just wake up. Like you could be like me. It's blissful to have 100,000 copies of an amazing, beautiful body that can't break down, that gives you bliss, that gives other people bliss. Just study Chi Chedrak. And then, you know, that what that makes me think of. Do we have time for this? We do, because we're almost done. When I was in Nepal on my first ever retreat, which was basically 3 days of me crying and other stuff I probably shouldn't mention publicly. It was horrible. I didn't know how to do a retreat. I was trying to meditate on the Lamrim, and it was just me freaking out in a room in a monastery in Nepal for 3 days. And when I came out of the room, because they forgot to feed me, they were supposed to bring me food, and then they forgot to bring me my dinner. And I was like so freaked out. I also had really horrible cystic acne on my face, like really, really just like painful, red. I hated it. And I went out, I had it all. I wasn't wearing my makeup, which like, if you've ever had cystic acne, you know that that's like the worst thing. It's so embarrassing. And I stepped out and all of a sudden this old ass monk was like, Tara, it's Tara, it's Tara, it's Tara. And he rushes over to me and holds my face in his hands. And he's like crying. I was staying in a monastery where people were doing 3-year deep retreat to meet the deity. Like they're trying to have a divine experience. This old man runs up to me. It's my first year of Buddhism. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I come out of my little like retreat room, like almost ready to cry. And he's holding my face like I'm this divine angel that he had been waiting so long to meet. And this crowd of monks comes up around him and they're all saying, Tara, Tara, Tara. And they can't speak English and I can't speak Nepali. And they're like having this wild experience. So is it not true for them? Am I not Tara for them because I didn't see myself as Tara? Who should they believe? Like if I said, oh, I'm not Tara, sorry, you're like sorely mistaken. I'm just some asshole from New York City who's like trying to get shit right. Like, please, like, don't touch me. I'm gross and weird and I'm having a depressive episode. It doesn't matter what I thought I was. To him, I was an emanation of Tara. But when you see it, it's so amazing because like, if I don't see everyone around me as a Buddha, does that mean they're not? Just because I can't see them that way? Does that mean that they're not? Like, let's be logical. Because I can't see it that way, does that mean that they are not? You know that that's not true. You have to prove it to yourself over and over and over again. Why? We're missing the opportunity that that person was having. if he was having the experience that I think he had. Because there, you know, we tend to think Shakyamuni Buddha is like the real Buddha and everyone else is a maybe. Like the Dalai Lama is like probably more, like 98%. But like Shakyamuni Buddha, yes, he was the real one. Dalai Lama, maybe. I don't know about my teacher. We're not even going to go there. But like we think Shakyamuni Buddha is the real Buddha. What about all of the other billions of people who don't think he was shit? Does that make him not a Buddha for you? You have to think about it. That's the point of this stuff. It's not about is water a changing freaking thing. It's about, are the people around me, are the things around me, the like mind possessors around me, are they Buddhas or are they not? Can they help me? Can they not? Is this going to get me there or not? Here's FKA Twigs. Inspirational image, inspirational image. This is what I said already. Study of Rikchi and Dunchi is to show you that when you perceive something, you're just perceiving a mental image. Does that make it not real? No, it's still real. But this mental object that I'm perceiving, that I'm mistaking for the real thing, is forced on me by my past karma. There's nothing else that exists independent of this process. This process is what makes it real. My karma makes it real. My karma makes it real. My karma is also a mental image. An actual object that exists independent of this process does not exist. The lack, okay, listen to this one before we end. We're almost there. The lack of an object that exists independent of my karmic projections is emptiness. The lack of an object that exists independent of my karma is emptiness. Good, got it? We're all enlightened? Okay, we already talked about that. Why are we still going? Oh yeah, consider Buddhas. We can tell that they're Buddhas because they seem like Buddhas. Do all Buddhas seem like Buddhas? No, there's some Buddhas we know. Maitreya, future Buddha, showed up as a dog. Okay? Do things that seem like Buddhas, here we go, come on, someone help me. I don't want to read it all at you. Michelle, do things that seem like Buddhas, do all things that seem like Buddhas help us understand that they're Buddhas? No, it's not there. Do things that seem like Buddhas allow us to see them as Buddhas? No, you're with me. I don't need to keep proving something that is not functioning with language right now. Sorry, Michelle, I asked you to do something and then I changed my mind. Summary of tonight, okay? What are we studying? Pramanavartika, Master Dignaga, Master Dharmakirti, okay? What are we taking away from this class? There's a world I can't see. I can destroy my mental afflictions by breaking them down with logic. And I created a worksheet for you to do this. So I'm going to be emailing you a PDF where you can walk through your own mental afflictions. You have to set them up like a logical statement, which is hard for a lot of people, but put it down on paper, including myself, put it down on paper and destroy it using logic. And then the final thing is kelwa. If this stuff isn't making sense to you, that is because you need to fill up your kelwa tank. Kelwa is the virtue that you accumulate through service. Kelwa is the virtue that you accumulate through service. It's just saying that if you take care of other people's minds, your mind will be taken care of. So when you start to practice more and more, you start to have this understanding like, oh shit, okay, something about this just isn't, something about this practice is not connecting for me. I have to go take care of someone. And it doesn't seem to have a connection. But when you start to study it, it has a very, very deep connection. Caring for others' minds means that my mind will be taken care of. If I remove the suffering of other beings, maybe I can start to remove the suffering that's forced on me by believing in the Gakcha. And this is just some examples of some Kelwa. Most of the Kelwa I do is just taking care of 3 jewels. And I know that a lot of you already like volunteer, you teach, you don't only have to travel to Nepal or take care of 3 jewels to accumulate Kelwa, taking care of your children, taking care of your parents, right? This is all something that we can do to start to fill up the virtue tank so that we can see emptiness directly. When Geshe Michael described his experience of Chuchak, he saw a pot, he saw his dunchi for the pot of tea that he was boiling for his lama come out, cover the pot of tea. It was in service of his teacher. And if you don't have a teacher, don't worry about it. You don't need to have a teacher to do Kelwa. But it's a very beautiful practice. I highly recommend it. If you have questions about it, let me know. But yeah, that was us. If Javier's in the room, that's Javier. Ilana. Okay. Monday night, you can do your meditation with Sarah. And let us dedicate the teaching. I'm going to mute myself. Sorry if I didn't call on some of you. Let me see if I can find someone. And I want to call on you, but I feel like the audio is going to be weird. Is it? Can I call on you? You don't want to do it.
She's going to do it.
Yes. Okay. I'm muting myself.
Oh my gosh.
It's okay. It's okay. We'll just make Zoe do it with you too then.
All right. Should you do it with me?
Sure.
Okay. Ready?
Do the hand thing.
Sashi Puki Jukshin Metatron Rirab Lingshi Minde Yen Pati Sangye Shindu Nikte Uargi Drokam Namdak Shingla Chuparshok Iram Gauratna Manalakam Niryatayami Gewati Kewakum Sunan Yeshe Sokshin Sunan Yeshe Lujangwe Dampa Kuni Tupashu.
I was saying, wow, 65 of you stayed. That's really good. Thank you for doing that. If you want to learn this stuff more, you should get this book. I'm going to send you a link. Try to use like an independent bookseller, but independent booksellers might not have it because it's such a like niche text. So you may have to go on Amazon. I'm going to see what I can find. This is written by a member of the extended Sangha, and it basically just goes through all the stuff that we talked about more in depth. Like well, let's see, like he's going to go through, like, it's just, subject association. See that?
Rachel, does 3 Jewels sell it?
No, not right now.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming. Rejoice in your efforts of studying wisdom and debate. Thursday we'll do more wisdom and debate, and don't be discouraged if this is like too much. Next week we're diving right into a super heart-centered practice called Lojang, which is heart training or mind training, and it's really beautiful. It's like love everyone, and that's it. And you're just sitting there and you're like, okay, I guess that's the freaking teaching. Go try it now, But it's actually much more difficult than that. And it's really, 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 really beautiful. So even if this isn't clicking for you, come back next week. There will be a change of pace. And it will be much more like when rubber hits the road, what do I do? Is there anything that I need to announce, people who know those things? No. Okay. Any questions? I'm happy to stay for a couple of minutes if there's questions.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Rach. That was stunning.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Why are there 100 and it's Rebecca? Why are there 108 beads? Like, what does the 108 represent? When you were talking about the debate tactic, I was just wondering.
You know, I've heard some teachings on that, but I haven't heard them directly from my Lama in the context of this lineage. So I don't want to say I understand, but I do know that it's a sacred number. It's why we have a $108 membership. We use some of the holy numbers for 3 jewels, like price points. So we have a $21 membership, a $49 membership, and then 108. And we just did it because they're sacred numbers. But the stuff around that and like geometry and numbers and colors and all of that, that comes later after you learn Chi Jedrak. Then they're like, okay, by the way, here's all of the magic and it works because of Chi Jedrak, but you have to understand Chi Jedrak. Otherwise, none of the fantastical esoteric stuff will actually function. So we will get to it, just not in this course. And you can ask any of my teachers, they might have a better answer for you.
And I think like Christian rosaries and even the Muslim like prayer beads also are 108 actually.
I think so too. I think for the Christian ones, I think they have like 35 or 39 or something on some of them too. I know because I tried to count on my grandmother's rosary and I was like, oh, this doesn't really work for what I want to do. But yeah, that's a good point, Hannibal, because I've noticed that too for some other malas. Okay.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes.
So when all those monks like were calling you Tara or Tara in Nepal,
yeah.
but like you were still like suffering and depressed.
Yeah.
From your side. So is enlightenment, it's just nothing changes except for just the way that everything is, I mean, it's like, it's just coming from your mind. So it's not outside of you. Like, I just don't think it's fair that you were still suffering and they didn't see you as suffering.
Yeah. There's a couple ways of looking at that. And you know, it's one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot recently, but it's kind of like the teaching on how, even when the Buddha was alive, there were like all these revolutions and, you know, it's just because the Buddha was alive doesn't mean that like people weren't killing each other in war and stuff. That was still happening. And so even disciples of Lord Buddha were like, you know, killed. He was sitting right there. He couldn't protect them. He knew what was going on. He could validly perceive what was going on in nominal reality. But for a Buddha, they're in bliss all the time. And it's a state of consciousness that is different than one that we're used to considering. For a Buddha, our pain is like when a child, it doesn't matter any pain, take the deepest pain. You know, for a Buddha, it's like for a human and their child, the child falls and scrapes their knee. And the parent is like, don't worry, like, and the kid is screaming bloody murder. But the parent's like, don't worry, you're gonna be fine. In 5 minutes, they're gonna forget, or like give them a lollipop or hand them the iPhone or whatever kids do right now. For a Buddha, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that. But you're right in that it's not fair that they got to see me as enlightened. I wanted to be enlightened. But you know, that's karma. And actually karma is fair. I haven't created the seeds yet to see myself that way. You know, if a Buddha could force you into enlightenment, Sydney, they would do it. They're all compassionate, but they're not all powerful. They have powers, but they can't force you to not suffer.
I feel like we give a pass to let Buddhas do a lot of spiritual bypassing, but like none of us are allowed to do it. And I take issue with that. So thank you. I will keep studying.
Define spiritual bypassing.
Looking at something that, I mean, I get that they see it in a different, that it's like, oh, like this. I mean, I don't want to talk anymore. It's fine.
Okay. I would say, okay, first of all, very normal for mental afflictions to come up when we're studying emptiness. It's like, they love it, they want it. They're like, Sydney, don't believe that freedom is possible. Look at all these other things that are telling you that it's not possible. And Buddhas are just assholes that are spiritually bypassing, you know? Of course, that would come up when you're studying emptiness. My recommendation, I'm making a generalization about your state of mind, by the way. I'm not presuming to know what you think. My recommendation would be study the last few slides of what I just taught, the Dunchi, and try to figure out like, okay, it's gotta be real, but it's also a projection. It's gotta be real, but it's also a projection. And the tension between the Rikchi that we studied and the Dunchi is what brings us to that realization in how it has to be true, that that's possible. And if it doesn't come up true for you, then this isn't the teaching that's going to help you. That's what Lord Buddha said. You know, if it really doesn't make sense, if you investigate it and you debate it and it really is still stupid, then you shouldn't believe it and you shouldn't follow it. That's what he said. But first investigate it. And on Thursday, we'll go much deeper into this. And I suggest that everyone, if you're having questions like what Sydney is saying, hold that in your mind and see if, as you sit with the teachings, it starts to become more clear. Like usually something will shift around it, you know? But just see if it becomes more clear. And then also remember, the monks and master teachers, when they study this stuff in the monastery, it's like they get 7 years on it. You just did 2 hours. It takes a long time to ingest and apply these concepts. Not for everybody. Some people can just hear it and boom, they're enlightened. I'm not that person. But if you're not getting instant enlightenment, don't feel bad. Just give it time, please.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
So the thing with the kid is actually a great example, because you can see, you know, like I experience that with this, you know, little one all the time, where she does hurt herself. You know, it's not that. Andy, 1 second.
He's like, no, I didn't.
It's not that, you know, it's just all in her head or it doesn't really exist or whatever it is, you know. She hurts herself and she's wailing and in pain. And although there's a part of me that has compassion for her and that doesn't want her to hurt, I also know that she's going to be fine, you know. And I know that it's going to end, that pain is going to end. And if you can imagine, you are a being that perceives all of existence and all of time simultaneously, and knows, literally, not even knows, but literally perceives this being that's dying of cancer, or that's being bombed or gunned down or whatever, you know, you want to think of. If you are perceiving that being, you also perceive at the same time their enlightenment, the time that they become, you know, blissed out and are free of suffering. So if you actually saw that, yeah, you have compassion for the suffering that they're going through and the perceived suffering that they have of themselves, that this is the worst thing that could possibly ever happen to them. But at the same time, you're also like, you know, you'll be fine. I literally am perceiving right now your enlightenment and the moment that you are completely blissed out. And so, yeah, so you have, you do have compassion. It's not that, you know, the Buddhists don't have compassion, they don't care, blah, blah, blah. but it's that they'll again, like just like I'm with her, where it hurts me to see her in pain. I know she's going to be fine. If that helps at all.
It's a good point, Hannibal, and thank you for adding it, which is the necessary result of enlightenment, which is something I think we should explore more. It came up in the last class or the class before, where it was like, why is it true that we must all get enlightened? And it's that the truth of emptiness, if it is a real truth, it will destroy suffering. Suffering won't have a chance. It will not have a chance. Once that truth shines its light, the suffering will all be destroyed. And then it's just a matter of how quick can we get there? And how quick, and that feeling of like, wait, no, like I want everyone to be there, not just me. I don't want to just be like dissociated on a hill somewhere. That's bodhicitta. And that's actually what you need to get there. Because the duty of a Buddha and the duty of a Bodhisattva and the duty of a practitioner who takes those vows is to achieve bliss so that you can show other people how we get there. Everything that we do now is just deductive. I think that ACI is going to help you, so I'm going to teach it to you. Once I become a Buddha, I can say, I know directly how each of you will be affected by ACI, throwing you into the result of your Buddha body. And now I can teach it to you with the direct understanding. Now I can teach you with the direct understanding now that I've achieved the result. And that's why we have to get there as quickly as we possibly can. And that's also why the myth of like, oh, a bodhisattva will stay in suffering, bullshit. A bodhisattva will get to bliss so that they can bring all of the other beings to there. Once I've made it there, I know how to get there. I've used my logic. I've accrued enough kyawa. Now I'm here, this is how. It's the gift that Lord Buddha gave us. It's the gift that Geshe Michael and Ken Rinpoche gave us by creating these courses. Okay, I'm gonna go. I love you. We'll talk more in next class.
Thank you.
Thank you.